Start from here.
Nothing exists.
I need you to speak a little louder, please. I can't hear you.
Nothing exists outside the now. Aren't past and future just as real, sometimes even more real, than the present? After all, the past determines who we are as well as how we perceive
Sit up. Bring it closer so you can see better.
and behave in the present.
You need to speak louder because I cannot hear you.
And our
There you go.
future goals determine which actions we'll take in the present.
All right, so let's rethink about what this was. So we get a better understanding. Aren't past and future just as real, sometimes even more real, than the present? After all, the past determines who we are, as well as how we perceive and behave in the present. And our future goals determine which actions we take in the present.
You haven't yet grasped the essence of what I'm saying, because you are trying to understand it mentally. The mind, you cannot understand this. Only you can, please.
The mind cannot understand this?
Only you can. Please just listen. Have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside the now? Do you think you will ever will? Is it possible for anything to happen or be outside the now? The answer is obviously it is not.
Let me see this real quick. So he says here, you haven't yet grasped the essence of what I am saying because you are trying to understand it mentally. The mind cannot understand this. Remember, when we're thinking, right, thought in our mind comes from the ego, right, and the pain body, right, which are influenced by experiences from the past and anticipation of experiences in the future, right? None of which are happening now. So in the mind, we're trapped in time. You haven't yet grasped the essence of what I am saying because you are trying to understand it mentally. The mind cannot understand this. Only you can. Please just listen. Have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside the now? Have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside the now? See, anything that you've done happened in the now. The memory of that experience from the past, you experienced it in the now, in the present moment, at that time in the past. Do you think you ever will? Is it possible for anything to happen or be outside the now? The answer is obviously, is it true? Is it not? Or the answer is obvious, is it not? So, is it possible for anything to happen or be outside the now? No. The only thing that happens outside of the now is when you allow your ego to take over and stop you from being the watcher of the thoughts that are going on in your head. When you just allow the trailer in your mind to play out and you just play whatever movie pops up in your mind, you're stepping out of the now. A simple example, kind of, would be in the event of driving a car and a red light comes up. What should happen in the now would be pushing the brakes and coming to a stop. Okay, that's in the present moment. But as the red light comes and you don't just push the brakes and come to a stop, you start thinking, oh, there was that one time, there was that red light at this same intersection. I remember seeing it in a car accident. And while your mind is drifting, you're leaving the now. And then you have to jump back into the now so that you can slam on the brakes so you don't run the red light. Right? So everything that happens in the now. Your mind puts you into a past tense or future tense state. Right? Because there's past, present, future. The now is what's happening currently. To enter your mind is to put you in past tense or future tense, removing you from the now, removing you from being present in the moment. So where are we? Oh, right here. Nothing ever happened in the past. It happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in the now. Finish off these two paragraphs. Out loud, so I can hear, please.
What do you think of as the past is a memory trace stored in the mind of a former now?
Okay, what you think of as the past is a memory trace stored in the mind of a former now. That's a lot to swallow, but it makes a lot of sense. Keep going.
When you remember the past, you react a memory trace, and you
reactivate
a memory trace, and you do so now. The future is an image now, imagined now, and a projection of the mind. When the future comes, it comes as the now. When you think about the future, you do it now. Past and future obviously have no reality of their own. Just as the moon has no light of its own, but it can reflect the light of the sun. So are the past, future only pale reflections of the light, power, and reality of the eternal present. Their reality is borrowed from the now.
Let me reread this paragraph before you read the last paragraph.
Okay.
What you think of as the past is a memory trace stored in the mind of a former now. When you remember the past, you reactivate a memory trace, and you do so now. The future is an imagined now, a projection of the mind. When the future comes, it comes as the now. When you think about the future, you do it now. Past and future obviously have no reality of their own. Just as the moon has no light of its own, but can only reflect the light of the sun, so are past and future only pale reflections of the light, power, and reality of the eternal present. Their reality is borrowed from the now. What does that make you think with that last paragraph? How's that? What do you think about that?
May I think it makes me powerful now.
Makes you powerful now. Interesting. Why do you say that?
Because this is the power of now. The book of power of now.
It makes you think of the title, The Power of Now, right? So, but in this paragraph, when we're talking about if the past isn't real, and if our thoughts of the past are not real, they're just thoughts, right? And then our thoughts of the future are not real, it's just thoughts. They're borrowed ideas of a once now and a futuristic version of now, right? The real power is in the moment, right? Because this now that we're in will be a past tomorrow. But tomorrow's the future of this current moment, so that future will be the new now. Either way, we will have an opportunity to be in a moment in existence to make decisions, to do things, right? And it's within that moment when we do things where we have the most power. Not in our thought processes of the past and not in our anxiety of the future, right? The things that were said about me in the past, or the thoughts of failure, or even the thoughts of success, right? All of that, those are thoughts, those are memories, but they are not as powerful as being in the moment. Just like the fear and anticipation of the future. Well, what if it doesn't work out? Or I don't think I'm going to be good enough to make that happen, or we might not win that game, right? That anticipation is pulling you out of the now, in the moment, where in the now you could be reading the book to help you understand that for tomorrow, or you could be in the moment at the batting cages practicing hitting the balls, so that instead of anticipating what the game will be like, you're in the moment actively making the changes required and using the power of now, so that whatever does happen in the future and that next now that you're a part of, you're going to be better in the next now, right? Because if you don't take advantage of this now to do what is required to become better, the next now will just be the same, if not worse, than the current now that you're in. Read this last paragraph.
The essence of what I am saying here cannot be understood by the mind. The moment you grasp it, there is a shift in consciousness from mind to being.
From mind to being. You're shifting from the mind to being, to acting, to the present, to the physical form of what your soul is experiencing presently in existence. Keep going.
From time to presence, suddenly everything feels alive. It
Radiate.
radiates.
Is that? Yeah, radiates.
Radiates energy and immense being.
Being. An immense being. Let me reread that paragraph real quick. The essence of what I am saying here cannot be understood by the mind. The moment you grasp it, there is a shift in consciousness from mind to being, from time to presence. Suddenly everything feels alive, radiates energy, emanates being. It's interesting, from time to presence, because we keep coming back to this idea where when you're in your mind, you're actually, it's almost a form of time travel, because you're focusing on influences and experiences from the past, and you're focusing on the anticipation of what influences and experiences will be in the future, neither of which are you focusing on the now. The now can be physically manipulated, but the past cannot, and the future cannot. Only the present. That's cool. I want to read this next one, and then we'll call it quits for tonight. The key to the spiritual dimension. In life-threatening emergency situations, the shift in consciousness from time to presence sometimes happens naturally. The personality that has a past and a future momentarily recedes and is replaced by an intense conscious presence, very still but very alert at the same time. Whatever response is needed then arises out of the state of consciousness. The reason why some people love to engage in dangerous activities such as mountain biking, car racing, and so on, although they may not be aware of it, is that it forces them into the now, that intensely active state that is free of time, free of problems, free of thinking, free of the burden of the personality. Slipping away from the present moment, even for a second, may mean death. That's interesting. Unfortunately, they come to depend on a particular activity to be in that state. But you don't need to climb the north face of the Eiger. You can enter that state now. So, the key to the spiritual dimension. So we'll move forward into this tomorrow. But this is where we're at right here. We'll start off here. Since ancient times. So what do you think about that so far? From what we read tonight? Give me some of your thoughts about where your mind's at with that. Look me in the eyes when you talk to me, please. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just thoughts. We're just thinking about what was said in the past, right? Because now we're in this moment now.
What really got to me was the past and the future when you said,
Can we close that door, please?
Carlo.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
when you said the future and the past, it doesn't matter. The middle.
The present, right?
Present matters.
What matters is the moment that we're in right now, right? Yes. Like, it no longer matters about the sound that we heard a moment ago, right?
Matters.
What mattered in that now, because that was its own now, what mattered was that we focused on our conversation. Not that we thought, noise, distraction. Well, I remember this one time I was distracted and it's just so annoying. Why do I always have to be distracted? And what if I get distracted again? You see how the mind starts tearing you apart into different directions? When the whole time, all we had to do was, please close that door. In the moment, please close that door. Thank you. Continue, Antonio. Thank you. You see that? That was a present decision. Influenced by the power of now, focusing on the moment that we're in currently. Right? So, it's interesting if you really think about you going into your mind, you're time traveling. And that's why it's important not to get stuck in a time loop.
It's like when something cool happened on this day and you're on this day right now, you're going back in time in your mind and you're thinking